Today's learning goal will be I will be able to use cross multiplication to solve for proportions. The math standard we're working on today is MAFS.6.RP.1.3. Proportions. Okay, what is a proportion? A proportion is simply two equivalent ratios set equal to each other. So for example, 4 to 5 equals 8 to 10. Another way to look at this, we have a proportion here, 1 to 3 equals 2 to 6. So 1 out of 3 is equal to 2 out of 6. So these ratios are in proportion. Now that we know about proportions, let's talk about cross multiplication. Here we have a proportion, 4 to 5 equals 8 to 10. We're going to use cross multiplication to check and see if this is a true proportion. And again, a proportion is when the two ratios are equivalent. To cross multiply, we are going to multiply diagonally. So first we have 5 times 8. Then we have 4 times 10. And we know that each of those equals 40. So when we cross multiply, if both are equal, then we know that we have a proportion. Another way to use cross multiplication is when we want to solve for an unknown amount in a proportion. So here we have 3 to 4 equals 18 to x, with x being the unknown. So what we can do is cross multiply 14 times 8 and 3 times x. So that means that 3x equals 72. Now what we want to do is we want to get rid of that 3 in front of the x. So what we're going to do is divide by 3. When we divide that by 3, it now becomes x equals 72 divided by 3. And 72 divided by 3 equals 24. So our proportion would be 3 to 4 equals 18 to 24. Okay, now here's a word problem involving proportions. Carol spends 17 hours in a 2-week period practicing her culinary skills. How many hours does she practice in 5 weeks? So let's go ahead and set up our proportion. The problem tells us that 17 hours in 2 weeks, so we have a 17 to 2 ratio. And then on the other side of the equal sign, we have an x because we don't know how many hours she's going to practice in 5 weeks. So from here, we can go ahead and work on this by cross multiplying. Again, the top is hours, the bottom is weeks. So we can cross multiply and we can say 2x equals 85. And then to get rid of that 2 next to the x, we divide by 2. And x will now equal 85 divided by 2, which is 42.5. So our proportion would be 17 to 2 equals 42.5 to 5.